Namaskar and welcome to Indian Diplomacy, show on Doordarshan, India's national television channel about India's foreign policy, India's international relations and developments and phenomena around the world that have an impact on India's rise as a major world power. Viewers, this is a special episode where we are taking a close look at the great Indian diaspora. Spread across all continents of the world in dozens of countries, the Indian diaspora numbers around 33 million. It's one of the largest in the world and has some very special and unique attributes and characteristics, and increasingly has become a force multiplier for Indian foreign policy, a major symbol of India's presence and growing influence around the world. So, to discuss the great Indian diaspora, I am really privileged to introduce you to a special set of guests who have come from the diaspora and who are here in India under the Know India program organized by the Ministry of External Affairs of the Government of India. We have 39 young people from 9 countries. Let me mention the list of the countries they belong to: Fiji, Guyana, Malaysia, Mauritius, Myanmar, New Zealand, South Africa, Suriname, Trinidad and Tobago. So this is of course a sample of the great Indian diaspora right in front of you, and they are all here to talk about their experiences belonging to the diaspora, how they perceive India, and what is happening to the link between the diaspora and Mother India, and how the rest of the world, those who are neither from India or from the diaspora but who are watching us or who are part of our networks, how they see the diaspora and how they see India's rise, and what is the role of the diaspora in propelling India's rise. So this is the big underlying theme of this debate. So let me welcome all our young participants. Welcome to Indian Diplomacy, friends. Okay. So the diaspora is great, as we are saying, and the diaspora has got extraordinary abilities. We are saying the diaspora has been recognized in their countries of origin, and they are also big players now on the world scene. So that much is clear. But let me start with something very intrinsic, close to your heart, something that moves you all and which actually connects you to Mother India, right? What is India for you? What does India mean for you? You know, you're here on this extraordinary visit through the auspices of the Ministry of External Affairs. You're able to actually experience the, your ancestral homeland in a very, very intense way, through learning, through visits, and all that is fantastic. But let's start with what India means to you, from your childhood, when you've grown up, the emotional bonds, the connection. When we talk about India, what strikes you? Can we have one of you come forward and share your thoughts on what India is? What is India's place in your heart, and what does it mean to you? Yes, please.
Namaste. My name is Sunishma Singh, and I'm from Fiji. India represents a profound connection to my roots and my heritage. As a member of the diaspora, we think that India is a country that is rich in culture, and at the same time its economic advancements and technology. It symbolizes a part of who I am, and at the same time where my ancestors were from. Yeah,
and you already spoke about the history and the contemporary greatness of India. Prime Minister Modi has this phrase called Virasat Bhi Vikas Bhi, which means heritage and also modernization. These things are happening simultaneously in the present India, and you are also referring to that. I'd like you to go a little deeper to Fiji. Fiji is a major diaspora country in that part of the Pacific. It's geographically a little far from India. How do your fellow members from the diaspora look at India? And you obviously engage in the communities, right?
Yes.
So what does India mean for them at a broader level? You already spoke about what it is for you.
So Fiji is just a dot on the world map. It's very much closer to Australia and New Zealand. It has the Indian population in Fiji is almost approximately 45%.
45%.
And the communities, the Indian communities, basically, we look at India as the motherland, where the culture has been, passed down through generations and generations. I know my ancestors were from there, from Bihar, obviously, but I know my family from very far away are still from Bihar, and there must be some kind of connection. But at the same time, I guess the relationship and especially the culture and the traditional knowledge that has been, brought by our ancestors from India, all those, when you look at the broader picture of that, so yeah.
Thank you. So yes, the diaspora obviously is very spiritually and emotionally attached to India, and that we are seeing viewers from our friend from Fiji, what she's saying. But let me also take up the theme of what it means to see the contemporary India, right? Like many of our diaspora are talking about culture, and that's of course something that links them very closely. And I'm sure many of you learned yoga and have been practicing it and are into Indian music and all sorts of other forms of popular culture. But let me also bring you to the contemporary India, because that's also been mentioned, and that is something. This is the Vikas part as opposed to the Virasat part. Friends, how do you think, when you're seeing is believing, right? What you're seeing, the transformation in India right now, the kind of economic rapid modernization, the infrastructure growth, it's the fastest growing major economy in the world, and it's on its way to becoming a great power in the world, or what we call a leading power in the world, equal to China, equal to the United States. India is on the rise, right? So when you're from the diaspora and when you look at it from outside, but you're also 1 foot and part of your soul and heart is here, right? What does that do to you as a person of Indian origin, as a person from the diaspora, to see India doing so well? Can I have someone speaking about that? Please, ma'am.
Namaskar. My name is Kivala Rangapal. I'm from South Africa, and I work in the publishing industry as a project manager. When I think of India and I see being here firsthand, all the infrastructural changes, the talks about transformation, I feel very proud. I think considering India's history with colonialism, there's been a lot of looting of its wealth, and a sort of status has been placed on India as a weak developing country. So to see and witness being a part of the Know India program, to be here, to listen to all the different presentations of the institutions that we're visiting, to hear about and actually see the actual transformation change, it feels overwhelming, but in a very, very positive sense, in the sense that what we've been told about India, either through friends, family, or even the media, is completely different to witnessing it firsthand. For example, where we're currently staying as part of our stay here for the program, that we have access to the metro system, which is something, in movies or Western media, you only see overcrowded trains. But the metro system is actually fantastic. It's so convenient, it's modern, it's contemporary, it illustrates the modernization and the transformation that we've been hearing about and we're seeing. So it's wonderful to see that India truly does have a lot of potential, and to witness all of these infrastructural changes goes to show that there's a lot of effort, there's a lot of energy, a lot of thought that is being put into helping India advance and reach its fullest potential. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Yeah, South Africa is very close to us too, and it's an important partner for India. And I've been to KwaZulu-Natal, to Durban, and I know the Indian community to some extent there. And yeah, there are always very positive vibes coming from there. And yeah, in fact, India-Africa, when we talk about the linkages, South Africa is one of our top partners, and I'm so happy that you're seeing this, because I'm sure it is giving the diaspora a lot of confidence or self-confidence about your roots and your origins, because Our friend from South Africa was just saying that the earlier perception was that India was a rundown country that was really poor and backward, quote unquote, right? But that perception is now changing, and you are here to see it for yourselves. So I'm so happy to hear that. Talking of perceptions, let me also bring in how your communities are perceived in your own countries. I mean, the diaspora has been very successful. Economically, generally, it's very, usually far ahead of the other communities in most countries. And secondly, the education levels are higher, the skill levels are higher, and also they're largely a peaceful community who do not engage in conflict with others. These are some of the things that stand our diaspora apart, right? Could some of you come in and talk a little bit about how the Indian diaspora is viewed in your own country? I'll come to how the Indians here in India see all of you. But let's talk a little bit about your country context, what's happening in your countries. I'm sure there has been racism, I'm sure there have been struggles, inequalities, but you've faced it all. And I'd like to pitch in the question of what makes our diaspora, all of you, so successful, you know, in your respective countries. What, according to you, is the reason for it? And how do local people, or let's say the other ethnic groups in your country, look at our diaspora, all of you?
I do believe that our Indian diaspora in Suriname has a very positive view based on the other ethnic groups. The Indian origin group is by far till now the biggest ethnic group, around 33%. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of ethnic groups in Suriname, so 33 is the biggest one. And actually, I'm happy to announce that we do, if for instance we look at government level, we're performing very well. The president of Suriname is from Indian origin. In the cabinet, the ministers, almost half are Indian origin. In the parliament, 40%. And for instance, if I look at my workplace at a university, also majority are of Indian origin. So we are accepted great, and people look up to us as Indian diaspora also. And also, I think that the fact that we have the embassy there, we have a Swami Vivekanand Cultural Center who is exploiting activities also for the Indian diaspora, but also non-Indian that are participating. For instance, taking Hindi lessons or going to learn, like they have sometimes dance, Bharatanatyam, or a tabla or dholak lessons, etc. So you see that the engagement is coming up. And also because of the growing India, we have also seen that on government level, for instance, there has been a lot change also where our country is benefiting also. If I can give some examples, we have like different credit lines from India available which have been used. For instance, some solar energy projects have been done. Right now as we speak, Kalpataru, a big company from here, is busy with transmission lines, which will also be good for electrical system there. And for instance, also a few years back, the Ministry of Defense wanted to purchase helicopters for safety issues, and they have purchased from India the Chetak helicopters. So I do see that the engagement is good. People also look good at India, and we are also benefiting due to all the grants and the credit lines. So I would say it's a win-win situation on both sides.
Thank you, my friend from Suriname. Yes, it's a win-win situation, viewers. That's what our young diaspora voices are saying, because they benefit from the foreign relations between India and their country of domicile. That's what he's highlighting there. The development assistance projects, the technical cooperation, the trainings, the capacity buildings, South-South cooperation. A lot of the members in the audience today from the diaspora are from fellow developing countries. And the South-South cooperation that India does with all of them redounds to the advantage and the benefit of our diaspora there. That's an important point. Okay, now there is also the question of identity, and let me tickle that a little bit before we go to other things about how India has approached the diaspora in terms of policies. But I want to focus a little bit on this aspect. People often say that the diaspora have a split identity or are a little bit confused because on one hand they are of Indian origin, but on the other hand they are well integrated into the local communities. and they are full citizens in those countries, and they're doing so well, right? They've become presidents, prime ministers, you name it, corporate honchos, and are thought leaders, intellectuals, right? So my question is, this so-called identity crisis, has it been resolved in your countries, or is it still there? A lot of our Indian viewers would be interested in knowing this, because our view is that you are still, neither fully Indian nor fully belong to the country to where you are domiciled. And have you personally, or as a community, the Indian community, they have been able to manage this dichotomy, and how do you manage this? I mean, people often say Indians, meaning all of us, not just the Indian citizens, but all of us. Our Prime Minister often calls the entire diaspora as part of Mother India, all of us who are part of civilization India. How do you think we manage this diversity and differences in identity, and how is it that we are able to avoid conflicts? This is one of the biggest plus points of the Indian diaspora. Anywhere you go in the world, you ask the host countries and the governments, or even the general public, they say the Indians are the best behaved, they have they never cause trouble, and they are ideal citizens. So I'd like you to just reflect a little bit, any one of you, if you could come in on why our diaspora is quote unquote so well integrated. How do you manage all these complex multiple identities? Can we come back to, yes please.
Hi there, I'm Shailen Padiachi from South Africa. So I do think there is a bit of an identity crisis, because if I look at the example in South Africa, we had both North Indian and South Indian people. And we were just put into the same areas together, but we couldn't communicate because we had different languages. So what ended up happening is that we took on the language of the British who had brought us to South Africa. So in a way, our culture had changed, and we are a very small percentage of the population as well. Despite us being model citizens, the local people do have some issues with us, mainly because of politics. So they have an anti-Indian rhetoric, which causes a bit of conflict. So that kind of results in us assimilating into the local population. So we lose a bit of our culture there as well. And essentially, a lot of Indians kind of renounce their ancestry.
In order to fit in?
Yeah,
better.
Precisely.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So there is a critical component here, and despite hundreds of years of existence of our diaspora, who went in the 18th, 19th centuries in many of these countries, there is still the issue of full integration and acceptance and inter-ethnic or interracial relations. But I'm happy to see that all of you are thinking about it. And now let me come to the crux of the matter, which is how do impressions of India as a rising power or as a major player in the world impact upon your lives? I mean, we've already spoken about the sense of pride and fulfillment that you have, that your ancestral land is doing so well, right? But I'd like to ask you if it's also helping you in a practical way with your careers, with perceptions about who you are, because of what India is doing, and that's something very important. Let me bring in a few more voices about what you are seeing here in India, what you're taking back home, and can you actually change perceptions of more people back in your countries and in your regions by virtue of this Know India program? It's very important because the whole endeavor, it's a kind of a cultural diplomacy initiative of the Indian government to amplify, the narrative about India doing well and India being a successful country. So do you think that this changing India that you're seeing is something that will empower you as a person, your community back home, and how can you convince other people beyond the diaspora in your countries about this new India? Because our Prime Minister, for example, has been saying wherever he goes, when he addresses the diaspora, he says, each one of you should bring 5 local people, meaning who are not of Indian origin, to India, to visit India. So 1 multiplied by 5, and we are 32 million people. If each of us do it, then we're talking about 160 million people coming as tourists or visitors or are becoming Indophiles. So I'd like you to talk about how you can be our cultural ambassadors, you know, or vectors who carry our message back to your countries and to your regions. Would anyone like to speak about that?
Namaskar, my name is Yashna and I come from Mauritius, and I'm here to represent Mauritius in the 75th KIP program. We are a group of 7 Mauritians here based for this edition. And my answer will be that in Mauritius there is a mixed perception of how we see India. So some people see it in a very good way, like rich in culture, the traditions that our ancestors brought to the country, and also the way that our parents and grandparents kept on keeping those traditions. And on the other side, I must say that some people still believe that India is still in its preliminary phase of development, which is a big misconception, and they feel that India is still in its poverty stage. So this is a very big misunderstanding, which my colleagues, my friends, and myself, we are going to change all this perspective once we get back to our country. Because right now, when we are visiting all these places, seeing the development has completely changed our perspective of India. So we are going to share this.
And when you go back, it will also change the perception of other people, right?
Definitely.
So tell me a little bit also about how people of Indian origin, I mean, Mauritius, of course, is an Indian origin majority country. But how would local people who are not of Indian origin or who are from other communities look at you, the Indians there?
So generally, like when we come back, like definitely when we return back, we are going to share our positive experiences of how it's real India and developing India, how it is in real. But the perspective of people in India, how they find Mauritius, it's they call Mauritius Chota Bharat, means little India. So Mauritius has a mixture of many cultures, and it comes from all the states of India. So we have some people do speak Tamil, Telugu, Marathi, Hindi, and I must say that it's really little India because we have a mixture of all the languages, cultures, traditions. So we are going to change those perspectives by enhancing more talks and definitely talking about our positive experiences.
Yeah, thank you. So definitely perceptions about India are changing. Viewers, that's what our special audience from the diaspora are saying. And there's a churn. There have been impressions of the past, but now, third decade of the 21st century, India is being seen in a more positive light in many parts of the world, and the diaspora are there to see it.
I think one of the ways that is very crucial to helping bridge the connection to our motherland, but also influence non-Indian diasporic folk into having more, rather to remove their misconceptions about India, is through education, through continuous support from consulates, embassies. I think part of my research showcased that with the identity crisis, there has been a hybrid identity created, such that there is assimilation. There is also the retention of our homeland ancestry and our cultures. And I think that one of the things that is so interesting coming to India is asking Indian citizens their thoughts on indentured labor and finding that even though we have the preservation of culture in South Africa, in our diasporic countries, there's still a large population of people who are unaware about their origins, about their ancestry, about indentured labor. Indian citizens, in my experience, often look at me with very puzzled faces as they recognize that I'm not from India, but they struggle to think, oh, you're from South Africa, but you also look Indian. How is this possible? So I think one of the great ways that could help is just education, promoting this very crucial era of history, indentured labor. I know we might talk about foreign policies a little bit later, but I do think one of the ways that we could really bring about change is through ensuring both India, both South Africa, or any other diasporic country includes this part of history in syllabus or in our syllabi or in our coursework. You know, it should be something that we all should know to understand our past identity, to ensure that we can now look at India for what it is now and appreciate how far we've progressed and how far we've come. I think also in terms of the consulates and the embassies, through their support, I know you mentioned Durban, KwaZulu-Natal, there are a lot of foundations that have received support from our local embassies, and through those diplomatic outreaches, I think that only just further provides awareness, great support, and through that we can help solve the identity crisis. We can help people understand their ancestry, their history, their homeland, and overall create a mutually beneficial relationship.
Yeah, no, fantastic points from our friend from South Africa. Yeah, diaspora studies is mostly done in universities and at very specialized levels, but it's often not covered or it's very insignificant. And it's interesting you mentioned, you're right, many average Indians don't know about the history of the our own diaspora, why they are spread all over the world. Most of them know about the recent arrivals, the people who went, for example, as the IT professionals to the US, or the ones who are working in the Gulf countries, but they don't know about earlier waves of people of Indian origin going and settling in many countries. You're right, there's an awareness gap and that needs to be filled. Diaspora studies needs to come in much earlier, maybe at the high school level, and not left to only the scholars and the PhD students. So that's a good point. Talking of Indians, as in people of India and how they see the diaspora, there's been a change. And I'm sure all of you have been also observing it. Viewers, you know it also that in the Narendra Modi era, there's been a lot more conscious effort to generate a positive buzz about the diaspora within India. And the earlier impressions of after 1947, after India became independent, was that the diaspora abandoned this country and that they are ungrateful people and that they are unwanted children who have left, right? So there was a lot of negative perception about the diaspora here in India. But all that has changed, especially in last 10 years, and Prime Minister always refers to the diaspora as mere pyare deshwasiyo, meaning you are also Indians and you are not different from those who are living physically in the geographical India. And that kind of broke the barriers in a big way. And now with the so-called circular economy, the diaspora also giving back to India in so many ways, investing in India, returning to India, and many of them are involved in property and in land deals, remittances that they send to their relatives back here. It makes a huge difference for India's growth. You wanted to come in, somebody else wanted to come in on the question of how you see the people of India responding to you in the diaspora now. Yes, please. Can we have, yes, go ahead, please.
My name is Jodashal Modley. I'm also from South Africa, and I'm an IT engineer. I think for me, being first time and coming to India, my perception has really changed. I think coming here and experiencing the welcome that we've had, India has really outdone themselves on all levels. But apart from that, being a part of the SCIP program has given us the ability to meet with not only Indians, but Indians from all around the world. Every person seated here today is from a different country, and being able to connect with everyone and realizing that it's not the country that we've come from, but we all are Indians, and living the values that India teaches people to promote peace, to be tolerant with each other. And I think that going back to our countries, we should teach each other this, because as they say, you educate one, you educate all. And living these values, so whether you're from South Africa, whether you're from Fiji, or whether you're from Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, it's not that we are different, we are all same, we're all Indians, and it's using our voices to inspire others and to bring about change. So if we learn peace and we can promote peace, or we learn unity and promote unity, the job is done. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you again, another friend from South Africa. It's an important point, isn't it, that India is represents certain values, and that that's how all of you gain respect in your countries, but also that's something that's worth promoting, and is the world's largest democracy, one of the most successful democracies. You just saw we had a general election in this country just a few months ago, and the verdict was a free and fair outcome. Just stunning, the scale of the Indian democracy, and that's also something I'm sure gains a lot of respect for India in your countries. Talking of the foreign policy now, we have this diaspora diplomacy, right? You're all living embodiments of it because you've come under the Know India program of the External Affairs Ministry. And many of you are already talking about the work that the Indian embassies and high commissions in your respective countries are already doing to engage with the diaspora community. I'd like some voices to come in to talk about your experience of what our embassies, high commissions, and our diplomats in your country are doing, and how networked are you all with them, and how does that embolden you or help you with your connection with India, and also with the broader role that you play of being our de facto cultural ambassador. So what is your experience of dealing with our embassies and high commissions, and what more can they do? Already we are getting some creative ideas. Can I bring in more voices? Yes, please. Yeah.
Namaste, my name is Chanda Ravi, and I'm from New Zealand. And in New Zealand, we have a fantastic relationship with the High Commission as the diaspora. The High Commission actually helps in setting up major events, cultural events, to raise awareness of what India is about in many different aspects. Number one, the Indian High Commission organizes Diwali events. And in a small country like New Zealand, and we're also quite far away from, geographically from the rest of the world, it's quite important that we can actually, embrace the culture that we've got in India and bring it to New Zealand and raise that awareness in the country. So doing events where they're all public events as well, which is brilliant. It helps to, embody not just Indian diaspora, but also the general public into what India is about. I think, they have now started also many yoga sessions around the country. A lot of people, because of social media, are actually looking into what India is capable of, and they want to spread the word. And being an Indian diaspora in New Zealand, I think our responsibility becomes that we are able to share the knowledge. And India is such a massive, ancient culture, so many traditions, so much knowledge to be derived, whether it's from Ayurvedic medicine, Eastern medicine, that's not actually prominent in a place like New Zealand. So that's something that we can actually introduce, the High Commission can actually introduce into the country, and that would be beneficial for so many people. It's not necessarily just Western medicine, for example, that is important, or people should have access to all types of medicine. And so I think that's something that the government can actually, incorporate into our country.
Yes, please.
I think one of the important aspects that I'm taking back for Suriname is that also on the front of yoga and Ayurveda, we can do a lot. For instance, we don't have a yoga institute or Ayurveda institute yet, but we do have yoga practices. For instance, Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center does that. They have started with regular programs, and yoga is very good, so it can be promoted. And also for the Ayurveda or interior, has very good medicinal plants that, for instance, can be used to make Ayurvedic medicine, but we don't have the facilities. So I think, for instance, an Ayurvedic laboratory in Suriname, for instance, on the university, would be helpful so that we can also do the lab tests, and we can also help produce. And that will also give a boost to our community, and also the link with India, because we know yoga and Ayurveda are two very important things that cannot be separated, I think, from India. So those are perspectives, I think, that we as Surinamese can take home and make ourselves better with it.
No, absolutely. In fact, we have a ministry now for promotion of traditional medicine. It's called Ayush Ministry, and they're doing a lot to do to promote and propagate this, not just within the country, but also internationally, along with the Ministry of External Affairs. So yes, we can do, that's a good policy advice, my friend. Thank you. These are all useful policy tips, and I'm sure authorities will take note of this. Friends, let me also now touch a little bit upon the popular culture. You know, it's all, I know, not just Bollywood, but even our regional film industries are hugely popular in the diaspora, right? Our music, our dance, our visual and creative arts and performing arts, all these are huge. And many of you, I'm sure, have learned some of them, and even our classical art forms. So let's talk a little bit about that part. We already mentioned the cultural links, but our missions there, they actively promote these art forms as well. And how can we get more people to be interested? You know, I was just following our Prime Minister's recent visit to Austria, where he had like an orchestra of classical Austrian musicians who were playing the Indian national song, the Vande Mataram. And the Prime Minister was, you know, being regaled with it. And it was so striking because, you know, here is a developing country whose leader is overseas, and their artists are actually have learned the Indian national anthem and are playing it, the national song, and they're playing it. So culture is obviously a bond, but music, dance, cinema, these kinds of things are so attractive, isn't it? And they have a natural ability to enhance India's soft power. So we have that inherent soft power, but many people say that we don't really, we have not really maximized it, and that we are maybe nowhere close to, for example, American soft power, you know, which is so dominant in so many parts of the world. So would some of you like to come in on that point, on what you've seen in your countries with regard to Indian art, music, popular culture, cinema, dance, and what more can we be doing to make it more universalized? And is there some gap or something missing in our strategy, do you think? What do you think we should be doing more? Yes, please.
Namaste, my name is Tony Raj. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. One of the things that we do in our country is the schools, the Hindu schools in our country, they compete in a competition called Bal Vikas. And it's something that they compete with all the different Indian cultures. So they have like classical music, Indian dance, musical instruments, and the schools compete against each other to see who can do it best. It's a great thing that they do to educate the younger generations and keep the culture going among the entire community. And I think what we should do is to have more communities get involved so that it can be more televised, so that it can have more knowledge of what it is exactly the culture is. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, Trinidad, it's very popular in India because of the cricket connection with the Caribbean, and some great players are from Trinidad and Tobago. But the cultural aspects is something that if we can inculcate at the school level, our friend from Trinidad is saying, then maybe it will be more ingrained and will have a deeper meaning. Anyone else wants to come in on our cinema and other forms of popular Indian culture and how these are being received back home in your countries and what more we can do? Yes, ma'am, please.
Hi, namaste. I'm Tarshni Muniandi from Malaysia. So looking into this perspective, right, actually in my home country, we have this Devara competition, like among states. And so the winner gets the prize and sort of things. And recently, I just came across in the WhatsApp where there is Bharatanatyam competition going on. This is taken to the consideration by High Commission of Indian in Kuala Lumpur. So they are handling this Bharatanatyam competition like overall in Malaysia. So that's a way of preserving the culture and arts as well as the Bharatanatyam dance.
Interesting. Yeah, we have a very large diaspora in Malaysia. Yeah, many of them are from Tamil Nadu and have a connection with South India. And I'm very happy to hear that one of our great classical South Indian dance forms is being promoted across the country. Friends, we've spoken about culture, we've spoken about economy, identity, all these things. Let me now come to the last important chunk of the show where we're talking about what more can we do to enhance the linkages between the diaspora and India. And I'd like you to come in and reflect a bit on what has been done so far, what needs to be done, and can we do something innovative or different. We already have a lot of ideas on the table from this discussion, but anything else you think, connectivity with your country in terms of air travel, trade, what is the economic and the investment links that we need to do more with your country to make this bond stronger? Would anyone like to come in on these aspects about the link between homeland and ancestral homeland? How can we enhance this? Any ideas, please?
Keval Marimutu from Trinidad and Tobago. So I think this point actually ties into a lot of the questions you've asked so far. The best way to increase linkages between India and our countries is through trade. And trade will also increase a positive aspect of it that people will have of India. So our Prime Minister was recently in India, courting foreign direct investment from India. And this ties into the incredible economic rise of India so far. So in Trinidad and Tobago, there's a lot of Indian investment, and we are always looking for more Indian investment. So right now, successful businessman Mr. Jindal was recently in Trinidad. He's actually looking at buying our state refinery. We have the Kolkata Knight Rider team, Trinidad and Tobago Knight Riders. They're looking at setting up a cricket academy in India, in Trinidad and Tobago. So all of these things coming together will increase the links between Trinidad and Tobago and India. Indian foreign investment is skyrocketing right now, and it's going to increase India's profile on the world stage.
Thank you. Yeah, we're happy to hear that our FDI is going into a lot of these diaspora spaces. And by the way, diaspora enhances those of us from the Gulf countries. They know it. I mean, the UAE and Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, they become huge economic partners of India thanks to the diaspora linkages, because the diaspora, many of them are into business, and they help to link up with India and generate the two-way flows of ideas and of goods and services and of money, and that makes a huge difference. Okay, so last point, friends. This program that you've done, how has it changed you? I want you to please come in, new voices who haven't spoken before, and when you go back home, what is the message you're going to give to not just the diaspora community but to other people in your country about India? What do you think? What is your 5-minute spiel after landing back home, after doing this whole program, saying, "Hey, guess what? I went to India and I learned something, about India which I hadn't known before. Do you know? Do you know? Do you know?" Let me hear from some of you about what you're going to say and what you're going to carry in your heart and your minds. And I hope this has been a transformative experience for you, the Know India program. And please tell us what you're going to, how you will be our messenger to your country and your region.
Namaste. I'm Manisha from Suriname. I'm a doctor. From all the visits that we have paid recently to all the institutes here in India, we learned so many things. India is a source of knowledge on different regions. So all the learnings, all the knowledge that we got here, we can bring back to our home. And by participating in this Know India program, you can say we are ambassadors. We can function as ambassadors in our home country to bring this knowledge to the people there and to stimulate people on building relationships with each other and with India, so that we can also benefit from all the knowledge that India has to give us.
Thank you, my friend from Suriname. Has anything about India surprised you? I mean, did you come in with a notion, and has anything surprised you? We already spoke about the infrastructure and the economic growth. Anything else about India that has surprised any of you, and which you'll go back and tell people back home, hey, I thought it was this way, but it's actually the other way around? Yes, please. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Teresia Ramlochan. I'm from Guyana. So one thing that really struck me was the ideology of the world is a family. So it was very profound, because right now in Guyana we have an ongoing border conflict with Venezuela. So it's very overwhelming to see India maintaining relationships, political relationships with countries that are in conflict with each other, and having that positive. So that's something definitely that I can take back, and we can be able to, have a peaceful discussions with Venezuela. Thank you.
Oh, how wonderful. Yeah, I mean, India has been promoting big values of international cooperation and peace. Of course, we also have conflicts with two of our neighbors. But the more important point is that India stands for a certain multilateral kind of diplomacy that is based on consensus and harmony. And Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, our friend from Guyana, is talking about that, and what that means is it can be a solution to many of the contemporary global problems, not just in the Caribbean, but across the world. There are so many things that India can give in terms of ideas and concepts that can go on to make the world a better place. So I'm so glad that our diaspora is seeing that. So viewers, what we have learned today from this special show here is that the Indian diaspora is on the move as much as India is on the move. The Indian diaspora is a very dynamic community, very enterprising, extremely well integrated into their respective home countries, but are increasingly connecting with India in so many different ways and are giving back to India. And we are so grateful to all of them for their contributions to India's rise. And just as India is on the move and is making them feel proud, we here in India feel proud about our diaspora, their achievements, their accomplishments, and their special attributes. I hope, viewers, you got a sense of the talent, the immense talent our people have, our Indian people have around the world, the kind of spirit that they bring to whatever task they take up. You could see a small glimpse of it through these young participants from the Know India program of the Ministry of External Affairs. The diaspora is our strength. There's just no question of India becoming a leading power in the world without the helping hand and the support and the guidance of our diaspora. So we really look up to them, and I think the message from India is very clear. The diaspora is our real asset, and we are going to keep nurturing it through policies, through outreach, through initiatives, and most importantly through heart-to-heart connections like we had today with this young audience. Thank you, folks. Thank you all from the diaspora from 9 countries, and it was such an engaging and valuable discussion. I'm sure there's much food for thought we have created, both for policymakers here in India, but also for our diaspora communities and for world audiences through this show. Really appreciate your insights. Thank you, viewers. Thank you for tuning into Indian Diplomacy. Yeah, the diaspora matters. The diaspora is going to be the catapult that's going to hoist India from one level to another level, and we believe that the best of the Indian diaspora is yet to come, and that is going to be our big plus point as India rises to the next level in world affairs. So thank you for watching. I'll see you again next time. Until then, take care.